My girlfriend told me she was taking her ex-husband to her work Christmas party instead of me because nobody at work knew about us, and when I questioned it, she called me selfish, jealous, and irrational, then hung up on me and asked for space. Posted by you/confused throwaway 232. I, 35M, have been with my girlfriend, 44F, for 9 months. When we met, she was open about the fact that she had fully separated from her ex and that they would be starting official divorce proceedings. Those started around 1 month ago, and it's basically in the early stages. Yesterday we were talking about work Christmas parties, and she told me her workplace was currently running a poll where the options were go alone, go with your partner, or say you're not going. When I asked what she was thinking of doing, she said she needed to talk to her ex-husband about it because she was going to take him if that option won because she didn't want to go and sit alone while everyone else was there with their spouses. Obviously I reacted pretty badly to this. She said she couldn't bring me because nobody there knew about me or us. She had started her job about 3 months before we met, and everyone there was basically under the impression that she was still married as that's how things had been when she joined, and she didn't like lots of people knowing her business, separating, divorce, and so on, so she just went along with it. She said that bringing me would therefore be weird, and she temporarily wanted everything to still look normal by bringing him. I questioned why she would need to go and pretend to essentially strangers, and she could easily just go on her own instead. She told me I didn't understand how difficult it was for her. She told me I was making it all about me by asking to be prioritized. In my eyes it was just consideration, that I was acting irrational and being jealous, and that she didn't have to run any of her decisions by me. She then started crying, hung up on me, and texted me to say she wanted space for a few hours, but she hasn't been in touch since, and that was 24 hours ago. I haven't reached out because I feel I haven't done anything wrong. I feel really horrible about her wanting to take him along so easily because it feels like she has not considered my feelings about it. We didn't have a conversation about it, and she just told me, and so to me it feels a little disrespectful to me and our relationship. I know we've not been together long either, so maybe I have no right to be involved in her decisions, but I would expect to at least have a conversation about that because that decision does directly affect us. I also don't understand why she needs to go and pretend to people she doesn't really know and why she wouldn't have just been able to take that opportunity to explain, but I don't know if I am just being selfish like she said. Am I the jerk? I've never been married, so I don't know if I have just majorly downplayed everything and been inconsiderate. Honestly appreciate everyone's advice and opinions. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, NTA. This is a massive red flag. You're worried about reacting badly, but the real problem is that 9 months into a relationship, she is actively choosing to prioritize the appearance of an intact marriage over publicly acknowledging her actual relationship with you. She isn't worried about people knowing her business, and she's worried about admitting she has moved on before the divorce is final, which suggests she is keeping open the option of reconciliation. The excuse that it would be weird to bring you but normal to bring the man she is divorcing is absurd and deeply disrespectful to you. Demand honesty and transparency, or walk away, because right now you are her secret, and the ex is her preferred public face. Ops response: I've read this over and over again because it articulates and validates so much of my thinking. That whole thing about actively prioritizing an appearance of an intact marriage is what felt so ironic and also uncomfortable when she told me I was being selfish for demanding, which I wasn't, to be prioritized. Thank you for this comment. Commenter 2, glad you've brought this up because to be honest I can't answer this either now I think about it. From what she told me, the relationship had been finished a good year before they separated. She started the job in October, and they had separated before we began in January. So I guess maybe she talked about him in the crossover? Edited for clarity as I got confused with when she moved into her own place, which was March. Commenter 3, similar situation for me. However, I'm the one that has to attend the Christmas party. My ex and I are close to finalizing the divorce, and I have found a new lady in my life. I am higher up at work, and it's important I attend these events, but no one knows my personal life. That being said, taking my ex has never crossed my mind. I am either going alone or I'm not going. This is all new, and I will definitely take my girlfriend next year but not now, too soon. If the thought of taking my ex crossed my mind for image reasons, I would 100% talk to my new partner before making a decision. But honestly, that's just not an option or consideration. Good luck. Sorry mate. Ops response: man, thank you for this. I was hoping someone would drop in who had lived it or from the other side. You don't know how much this helps because I put myself in her shoes, and like you did, I would have either gone alone and made an excuse if people asked where my other half was, or I'd have just not gone. Nobody is forcing you into taking them. And yeah, like you, if I had to, I would have asked my partner first and made sure they were comfortable or okay with it. She did zero of this. This has made my mind up. Thank you so much, and best of luck to you and your new lady. Commenter 4, just wanted to say thank you for this and for sharing your experience. Finally, this helps me understand what her motives or intentions might have been. She had a bad experience with a previous workplace and was out of work for quite some time, which left her scarred. She was constantly worrying the same thing would happen at this job, and it's a high-power role, so I can totally understand why she may have made out everything was okay like you did so that personal issues couldn't be used against her. And I guess if you're that scared, you would to some extent try to keep up the charade, especially because she'd only been in the job a year, which isn't solid ground in our country. You need 2 years to be safe from sudden sackings. I just wish she'd explained that. If she had said, look, this is what I'm thinking of doing because at the moment it feels safer for me to make out everything's okay so they don't think I might be distracted from doing this job because it's getting a bit meaty now, I would have understood. I don't know if I'd have been super comfortable with it. I still think she could have gone alone and made an excuse, but I get why maybe that would have looked weird too. But if we'd worked out boundaries together, then it would have been okay as it could be. And like you say, if only the not running decisions by me, silent treatment, and making me feel bad for having what turned out to be legit concerns hadn't happened either, all of this could have been resolved. However, it's now that behavior that's not okay as everyone here has helped me see, so it's that behavior which concludes my decision. Thank you so much for giving me this perspective and for future understanding. I hope you and your kiddo are doing well now. Update, next day. Firstly, I want to thank everyone for their responses. I never expected to get so many, and I read all of them. Yeah, even the painful ones. There were some great pieces of advice, perspective, and wisdom, so I really appreciate everyone's comments. Second, there were a lot of repeating questions that I didn't answer in the post because it all moved way too quick, so I wanted to answer those now in case those commenters were still wondering. Who filed and did I definitely know they were divorcing? My ex-girlfriend had always made out that she had begun proceedings. Honestly, I don't know for definite that they are, but she did have a few meetings with a lawyer when I was with her, and she'd moved into her own place in March, so to me all the signs pointed that way, but of course it may not have been the truth. Why would her ex-not-ex-husband agree to go? This is a solid question, and if I'm honest from what she told me about him, I genuinely don't think he would have. One of the reasons she gave for their marriage collapsing was that he became more antisocial and introverted and stopped wanting to go anywhere and do anything with her. I think that's why it felt worse, because if she was telling the truth about him, she was willing to take someone who had previously on multiple occasions said he didn't want to go and do things. If I'm honest, on reflection I think that this is an example of her refusing to face reality and clinging on to her old identity. Thank you so much to the commenters who gave me this insight. She just thought he'd agree because previously he probably always begrudgingly has, and she hadn't appreciated or logically thought about the weight of what she would be asking. If it was me, I certainly would have said no like everyone else said they would too. So on to the update, we split up. Thanks to all the perspectives here, I texted her to say that I hoped she was okay and that the space had given me time to reflect on the situation. I explained that I could see things from her perspective and what her intentions might have been, but that I was hurt that she hadn't felt she could communicate that with me first, as if she had, the outcome might have been different and we could have worked something out. However, I felt her behavior in calling me selfish and the not running decisions by me was disrespectful and inconsiderate, and that was now my major problem in moving forward with the relationship. She replied to say that if I was going to just bring another source of pain and stress to her life, then I may as well go because I was still making the whole thing about me and my feelings and not appreciating her not breaking apart at the seams while her life did, so she'd be taking more space until I decided what I wanted. Thanks to all of you, I realized how invalidating and again, manipulative that was, so I told her we'd make the space permanent and wished her all the best. Her response was just okay and asking if she could still use my Netflix password. So I changed it. Then she texted again a little while later asking why I'd changed it and could I put it back because it had locked her out of a show she was watching. So I had a good laugh to myself about the irony of decision making without running it by her, and didn't respond. On to better things and a definite lesson learned for the future in seeing the red flags. I also just wanted to thank the commenters who have lived it and shared their experiences. It did make it easier to understand what her motivations or intentions might have been for carrying on as normal. As I said in a previous comment, she had had a bad experience with a previous job and was out of work for some time in between. I also knew she was nervy about this one as it was beginning to ramp up. I can see why she may have obfuscated the truth so that her employers didn't think she had any personal distractions which might have stopped her being at her sharpest. Where we live, you need 2 years to be safe from being fired, and she was only a year in. I can totally get why someone suddenly on their own with individual finances, plus lawyer fees and divorce settlement fees, if true, would not want to risk their income suddenly being shut off or being back out of work for a long period. Having said that, I also agree with everyone that there's a difference between obfuscating the truth and showing up with your ex and essentially playing pretend when there was the option of going alone and just making an excuse for them. Though I guess I can also see why maybe that would feel awkward or uncomfortable being surrounded by others. End of the day, if she had come to me and explained, maybe we could have worked it out. However, she didn't, and everyone was right that her behavior and attitude towards me and the situation was incredibly disrespectful and problematic in the end. Once again, a massive thanks to this community. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, yeah, I don't even know the end game here. Say she takes him to this event and then shows up with you to the next one, isn't that still going to be an issue? Or does she then go to events alone for the foreseeable future until enough time has passed? Commenter 2, this was so dumb on her part, and all she had to do was go to the party alone. Just tell people her husband had his own company Christmas party the same day, so we decided to divide and conquer. Or he was at the in-laws, or on a work trip. Could have had a dozen excuses besides actually dragging him there or bringing up. They could have then dealt with the changeover next year. Op's response, yep, this was something I really didn't get at the time. Having had the insight of some amazing commenters in this community now, I can see why maybe her thinking was the path of least resistance, especially if she had been perpetuating a completely false reality so they were almost expecting to meet him, which feels a bit icky anyway now that I write it out. But just like you gave there, I also still believe there were a whole host of plausible excuses she could have given that nobody would have thought twice about. And if she didn't want to do that, then the other option was to not go entirely. The choice to go with him was the choice that should have been the most far-fetched and the last resort. Not her first choice or preferred option. Commenter 3, honestly, really glad to see you split. Like, there was just no good answer for what she was doing, and her reactions to you made it very clear that she had no business being in a relationship right now. She wants a roll of duct tape to hold her together, not a partner. Commenter 4, the audacity of her to ask for your Netflix password had me scoffing. You really dodged a bullet. She was still insisting that you were jealous, immature, and selfish. No wonder her marriage didn't last, and I bet everything that her ex was the one to ask for separation and later on divorce. Just from how she described him and the way he goes along with what she wants leads me to believe that she pushed for him to do things he didn't want to do, just to keep up images.